Good evening, everyone. I'm Lissy Bastian. It's Thursday, January 23rd. Thanks for staying with us. Another senior Royal Bahamas Police Force officer who was sent on leave back in March of last year returned to duty today only to be handed a letter of deployment. Assistant Commissioner of Police Clayton Fernando was among 8 other officers who had accrued months of vacation time. Upon his return today, he was informed of his reassignment to the Ministry of Health in a letter from the Commissioner of Police, Anthony Ferguson. JCN's news team reached out to his attorney, Wayne Monroe QC, who says it's an attempt to demote ACP Fernando, who does not intend to be demoted and will demand respect. Mr. Monroe claims ACP Fernando's letter is more ridiculous than the letter received by ACP Ken Strawn, who was also given a letter of reassignment back in December of last year.
They're purporting to want to deploy him to the Ministry of Health with regard security concerns within the ministry. You know, the ministry deals with hospitals and clinics, and you know that he is ACP crime, so he has oversight for the entirety of crime in the entire Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which would include all hospitals and all clinics,
Now, Mr. Monroe says ACP Fernando has oversight for crime in the entire Bahamas. That would include oversight for hospitals and clinics. The reason, he says, for healthcare facilities being close in proximity to police stations. Mr. Monroe says having accepted the letter, ACP Fernando will contact the Minister of Health to find out concerns that the minister has that has never been reported to police before now.
Because you see, he is the ACP of crime. If they had reported crimes, he would know about it. And if he doesn't know about it, then of course he would call the superintendent in charge of CDU and call him on the carpet for why he's hiding from the command structure crimes. He would call on the carpet the superintendent in charge of Central Division to find out why Central is covering up these crimes. That's what an ACP does. But none of that he knows about. So no doubt Minister of Health will tell him how these other policemen have been covering up things from the upper command level, and no doubt then he will deal with it. I suppose some superintendents will have to be fired.
Now, Mr. Monroe, stopping short of calling the matter victimization, says all assistant commissioners, including ACP Fernando and ACP Strawn, are where they are, having been promoted by all administrations, as their records speak for themselves, and says the Free National Movement administration does not understand institutions.
I was back in the country from England in 90, so I would have seen these men more when they were at the lower ranks and were working them way up through the system, and they have been promoted by all administrations. This administration seems not to understand institutions. They seem to believe somehow that you should be able to put in place people who you think are your people in the upper command levels of the police force and the defense force, and you can't do it.
Mr. Monroe says there are provisions in the Constitution to prevent these kinds of actions, and further contends that the attempt to demote ACP Fernando is not permissible. As for ACP Ken Strawn, Mr. Monroe says he's still awaiting a call from the Minister of National Security to arrange a meeting. At an intended town hall meeting turned rally, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis launched the Free National Movement's re-election campaign last night. Dr. Minnis used the night to outline the party's success since taking office in 2017 and touted what he says were the successes of the government, including empowering Bahamians, small and business ownership, which he says was assisted by Bahamian investments, making it possible for dreams to become true.
F&Ms! Are you ready for our next victory? I can't hear you, F&Ms. Are you ready for our next victory? Tonight we start the launch of our victory train. We start here in our central zone, and we will continue that destiny. Government House will be the final stop in 2022.
Dr. Minnis added that he knows the powers of dreams and education to transform a life, and that his administration will uplift many Bahamians, making the dream of education a reality, empowering Bahamians through education.
One particular individual donated $1 million, a Bahamian, $1 million, to ensure that our inner city get proper water. One particular individual donated $200,000 just to give small grants. And when I say grants, you don't pay me back. That's not Susie Grant. That's not Beverly Grant. That's not George Grant. That's free money. They want to give you a minimum of $2,500 to start up your business. That's what Bahamians are doing for us in the inner city.
Dr. Minnis also used last night's rally to attack the Progressive Liberal Party, likening the party to frogs and crabs that he says can be slippery to catch. He warned FNM supporters to not listen to what he called the PLP's fake news, as they talk plenty and do little, adding that PLP leader Philip Davis is good at playing confused when he wants to avoid responsibility. Last night's rally upstaged a Democratic National Alliance town hall meeting, which was scheduled for tonight at the Edmund Moxie Park. However, that town hall meeting has been postponed to a later date. In clapping back at the Free National Movement's rally last night, opposition leader Philip Davis says that the Prime Minister is useless and clueless. In a statement sent out immediately after the rally, Mr. Davis lamented that the so-called town hall meeting was a meeting by false pretenses, as the meeting, which was advertised as a forum for public dialogue with the nation's Prime Minister, turned out to be nothing more than a rally in the alley. Now, Mr. Davis says the Prime Minister must say who paid for this and whether any government funds were expended to support last night's rally. Mr. Davis contends that there was no new ground broken, and it was the same mishmash of attacks on the PLP, which he says passes for policy by the FNM. The statement went on to say that with hurricane relief in disarray, people with no beds in the public hospital, children demonstrating in the streets with no teachers, the Prime Minister can find time for trash talking on a public park, appearing with his condemned minister, Marvin Dames. Well, the Prime Minister also making an announcement regarding the country's tertiary institution, the University of the Bahamas. With free education for university students announced back in 2018, Dr. Minnis made good on a key election promise that all full-time Bahamian students who meet certain entry requirements for the university would receive free tuition in the fall of 2019. Well, Dr. Minnis announced last night that the university will now see physical upgrades.
I am happy to announce tonight that next week, Thursday, January 30th, we will break ground for the new University of Bahamas Residence and Multipurpose Complex. The new complex will boast a 1,000-bed capacity for student residents. And those students coming from the Family Islands will automatically have $500 paid for them by this FNM government.
Since the introduction of the UB free tuition, the university, according to Dr. Minnis, has had an increase in enrollment.
Since we introduced that program, there were an additional 1,056 students who was able to take advantage of the free education and attend University of Bahamas. An increase of 57%. And it's projected that there would be an additional 10% every year of young people who could not get a college education would be able to get a college education thanks to the FNM.
As for the new UB complex, it will also include a university village for leased retail, commercial, business operations, and faculty residences. More than 50,000 square feet of common areas, inclusive of a fitness center, study rooms, a dining hall with seating capacity of 200, a ballroom, and a spiritual center. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.